At 78, Jimmie Walker finally tells the truth about Esther Rolle. Jimmie Walker wasn't born into fame or fortune, far from it. He came into the world on June 25, 1947, in the gritty streets of the South Bronx, a place where life was tough and every day felt like a challenge. Poverty wasn't just a word for Jimmie, it was his reality. His mother, Lena, worked tirelessly as a head nurse, while his father was often absent, leaving young Jimmie to navigate a world that could be unforgiving. But it was in this environment, amidst the noise, chaos, and relentless energy of New York City in the 1950s and 60s, that Walker learned resilience. Every struggle he faced, every setback, wasn't just hardship. It was shaping a voice, a sharp wit, and a comedic perspective that would later make the whole country laugh. The streets of the Bronx became his unofficial classroom, teaching lessons that no school could offer: survival, observation, and a deep understanding of human nature. You could say the seeds of JJ's irrepressible energy and humor were planted here, in those early years of grit, determination, and relentless curiosity. But Jimmie Walker wasn't just street smart, he was also curious in a way that few expected. In high school, he developed a fascination with electronics and eventually enrolled at the RCA Technical Institute through a federal program, learning how things worked, from radios to wiring. He even worked as a radio engineer, quietly mastering the precision and timing that would later make his comedic timing flawless. Yet, something inside him was calling louder than circuits or calculations, something that demanded laughter, energy, and connection. By the early 1970s, Jimmie found himself performing in local comedy clubs across New York City, where his fast-talking, high-energy style immediately set him apart. Audiences couldn't get enough of his punchlines, his charisma, and that unique ability to turn everyday struggles into something hilariously relatable. It wasn't long before the comedy circuit took notice, opening doors to television, the Apollo Theater, and even The Tonight Show. In other words, this Bronx kid who once tinkered with radios was on the verge of becoming a national phenomenon, and nobody could have predicted just how explosive his career would become. Then came the moment that changed everything. Jimmie Walker landed the role that would make him a household name: J.J. Evans Jr. on Good Times, 1974 to 1979. Suddenly, the Bronx kid who once navigated poverty and tinkered with radios was on screens across America. JJ's energy was unstoppable, fast-talking, full of life, and utterly magnetic. And then there was that catchphrase, the one that exploded into pop culture: Dy-no-mite. It wasn't just a line, it was a movement. Kids repeated it in classrooms, families laughed together around their TVs, and JJ became more than a character. He became an icon. Every gesture, every facial expression, every perfectly timed joke showcased not just comedic skill, but raw authenticity born from real-life struggle. Walker had captured lightning in a bottle, and suddenly, the world couldn't get enough of him. While audiences were laughing, behind the scenes, the atmosphere was anything but playful. Jimmie's explosive comedic energy clashed with the vision of co-stars Esther Rolle and John Amos, who were determined to show a realistic portrayal of a proud black family. To them, JJ's antics were funny, but they risked turning the show into a caricature. For years, rumors swirled about tension on set, but the truth was deeper. This wasn't personal. It was a collision of visions: comedy versus social realism, punchlines versus principles. Walker, in his early 20s, was chasing laughs and newfound fame, while Rolle carried the weight of representing dignity and authenticity on primetime television. It was a balancing act fraught with creative friction, and yet, despite the tension, Jimmie delivered performances that kept audiences laughing, unaware of the deeper battles playing out just off camera. When Good Times wrapped in 1979, Jimmie Walker faced a reality many actors dread: typecasting. He had become so inseparable from J.J. Evans that Hollywood often couldn't see him as anyone else. It could have been the end of his career, but Jimmie refused to be boxed in. Instead, he went back to his roots: stand-up comedy. Touring clubs across the nation, he performed night after night to sold-out audiences, blending nostalgia with fresh, witty observations about life, fame, and everything in between. Fans who grew up watching Good Times found themselves laughing alongside a man who had matured yet never lost that spark of energy that made him iconic. On top of his live shows, Walker also made guest appearances on a wide variety of TV shows, from The Love Boat to Fantasy Island to Everybody Hates Chris. Each appearance was a chance to show a different side of himself, to remind audiences that he was more than just a catchphrase. These roles weren't just gigs, they were proof that his talent was versatile, enduring, and able to connect across generations. Even as Hollywood tried to pigeonhole him, Walker kept reinventing himself, proving that resilience and adaptability were just as crucial to his career as comedic timing. In a world that often discards aging sitcom stars, he stayed relevant by leaning into his unique voice, relentless energy, and authenticity. Jimmie Walker is not only a master of comedy, he's a man unafraid to stand alone in his beliefs. Over the years, he has shared perspectives that surprised many fans and even sparked debates. Known for his independent thinking, Walker has openly identified as conservative, a stance that occasionally put him at odds with Hollywood peers. Yet he approaches life with logic and clarity, refusing to follow the crowd or simply say what's expected. On a deeply personal level, Walker revealed that he had never married and never had children, something that caught many fans off guard. But rather than presenting this as a void, he described it as a conscious choice, a way to maintain his freedom, pursue his passions, and dedicate himself fully to his craft. While others were navigating traditional family expectations, Walker was carving his own path, embracing independence with humor, honesty, and a zest for life. When it comes to politics and social issues, Walker doesn't shy away from controversial topics. He has expressed nuanced opinions about affirmative action, voting, and civil rights, making it clear that he judges situations based on principle rather than popularity. On matters like gay marriage, he admitted personal opposition but also supported its legalization, showing a pragmatism and respect for societal progress that goes beyond personal beliefs. Through all this, a pattern emerges. Jimmie Walker is fiercely individual, thinking critically while staying true to his values. Beneath the Dy-no-mite persona is a man who is deeply reflective, principled, and unafraid to speak the truth, even when it isn't easy. Even decades after his Good Times fame, Jimmie Walker refused to be predictable. While many actors of his generation settled into safe, familiar roles, Walker leaned into the unexpected. In 2010, he made a brief but memorable appearance in the offbeat comedy Big Money Rustless, a wild Western-themed spoof produced by the Insane Clown Posse. It wasn't a blockbuster, far from it, but Walker's cameo injected nostalgia and energy into the film, reminding fans of the humor and charisma that had made him a household name. He didn't stop there. In 2011, Walker embraced the campy, over-the-top side of television by appearing in the Sci-Fi Channel's Super Shark, a deliberately absurd story about a mutated shark that could leap on land and attack tanks. To some, it might have seemed silly, but Walker saw it as fun, fearless experimentation. By stepping into these unconventional roles, he demonstrated that he wasn't afraid to take risks, to play with absurdity, and to keep engaging with audiences in surprising ways. Even decades into his career, Walker remained a performer willing to reinvent himself, balancing nostalgia with novelty and showing a fearless commitment to creativity. In 2012, he took a forward-thinking step into the digital age by launching his official mobile app for iOS, bringing fans closer than ever before. With exclusive clips, interactive features, and the iconic Dy-no-mite catchphrase at the tap of a button, Walker combined innovation with fan engagement, proving that he understood the power of technology to maintain relevance across generations. This wasn't just about self-promotion. It was a savvy embrace of a changing world, a way to keep connecting with people who had loved him for decades while inviting a whole new audience into his world. 2012 also marked a turning point in how Jimmie Walker shared his story with the world. That year, he released his autobiography, Dy-no-mite, Good Times, Bad Times, Our Times, offering a candid, unfiltered look at his life both on and off the screen. The book wasn't just a career recap, it was a window into the mind of a man who had lived through hardship, fame, tension, and transformation. In the memoir, Walker revealed the ups and downs of growing up in the Bronx, the struggles he faced navigating the entertainment industry, and the intense pressures of becoming a cultural icon. He didn't shy away from discussing the challenges of Good Times, including the creative conflicts with co-stars like Esther Rolle and John Amos. Yet he approached these reflections with honesty, humor, and compassion, giving readers a sense of both the human and the performer behind the legendary J.J. Evans. The memoir was widely praised for its authenticity and depth. Walker's storytelling bridged the gap between comedy and reflection, offering fans insight into the complexities of fame, the weight of responsibility that comes with representing a Black family on primetime television, and the lessons learned over decades of performing. Through it all, readers could see a man who had grown, who had matured, and who now had the perspective to honor the contributions of those who shaped his journey, including, as he would later reveal, Esther Rolle. Now, at 78, Jimmie Walker has begun revealing a chapter of his life that fans have long wondered about. His relationship with co-star Esther Rolle, the formidable matriarch of Good Times. For decades, rumors circulated about tension on set, but Walker has finally shared the truth. Honest, heartfelt, and surprisingly compassionate. He explains that the friction between them wasn't personal, it was a clash of visions. Rolle was a classically trained actress with a mission. She wanted to portray a strong, proud African-American family, breaking away from harmful stereotypes. She approached every scene with purpose, striving for dignity, authenticity, and meaning. Walker, fresh from the comedy clubs, brought energy, punchlines, and exuberance. His Dy-no-mite antics made audiences laugh, but Rolle saw them as a distraction from the deeper story she wanted to tell. Looking back, Walker admits he didn't always understand her perspective. She was tough because she cared, he says. He recognizes now that her insistence on authenticity gave Good Times its heart and soul, and he respects her dedication to the craft and the message behind the show. Though they never fully reconciled before Rolle's passing in 1998, Walker's reflections show a man who has grown, who can finally appreciate the wisdom and integrity of someone he once clashed with. This revelation is not just about Rolle, it's about Walker himself, showing a willingness to reflect, admit past misunderstandings, and honor the people who shaped his journey. Jimmie Walker's story isn't just about comedy, fame, or a single iconic role. It's about growth, resilience, and understanding. At 78, he looks back with honesty and humility, recognizing that the laughter he created was intertwined with the sacrifices and dedication of those around him. Esther Rolle, John Amos, his mentors, and even the streets of the Bronx contributed to shaping the man and the performer he became. Walker's reflections remind fans that success is rarely simple or solitary. It's a mix of talent, opportunity, conflict, and collaboration. By finally speaking openly about his experiences, he offers a rare glimpse into the complexities of show business, the creative struggles behind beloved television, and the human side of fame. Above all, he honors those who taught him lessons he only fully appreciated later in life. In telling the truth about Esther Rolle, he tells the truth about himself, about learning, growing, and ultimately embracing the responsibility and power of storytelling. For viewers, it's a story of laughter, tension, reflection, and gratitude, a reminder that even the most iconic entertainers carry hidden depths and untold stories waiting to be shared. Beyond the lights, the cameras, and the laughter, Jimmie Walker's journey is a masterclass in resilience, independence, and perspective. From the tough streets of the South Bronx to the national stage, he's learned that talent alone isn't enough. Discipline, curiosity, and self-awareness matter just as much. He shows that fame comes with friction, misunderstandings, and difficult choices, but also with growth, reflection, and unexpected joy. Walker's willingness to speak openly about his life, his triumphs, conflicts, and unconventional path offers fans a rare opportunity to see the man behind the Dy-no-mite persona. Thoughtful, honest, and unapologetically himself. He proves that life isn't just about the roles we play or the applause we earn. It's about the relationships we honor, the lessons we carry, and the integrity we maintain in the face of challenges. Every joke, every performance, every candid interview is part of a larger story about perseverance, learning, and human connection. Today, Jimmie Walker stands as more than just a comedic icon. He is a storyteller, a trailblazer, and a man who has lived boldly on his own terms. By reflecting on his career, his struggles, and his relationships, especially with Esther Rolle, he reminds us that behind every laugh, there's a story worth understanding. His legacy isn't just Dy-no-mite or television fame. It's a life lived with curiosity, courage, and authenticity. Jimmie Walker's journey teaches us that true success isn't measured solely by accolades, but by the growth we achieve, the the respect we give to others, and the impact we leave behind. And in finally telling the truth about his experiences, he leaves a gift for all of us, a deeper understanding of creativity, collaboration, and the enduring power of honesty.
If you enjoyed this story, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It really makes us smile. And if you're hungry for more fascinating tales, check out the 2 videos right below. You might just discover your next favorite story.